Good day, everyone, and welcome to this panel discussion titled The Land Beneath Restoration, Confronting the Challenges to Secure Rights and Livelihoods. My name is Salma Adam, and I will be the moderator for this session. Our speakers today will speak in English and French, but do not worry, subtitles will be added so you can easily follow the conversation. Let's kick off our session. Currently, Africa is grappling with a triple threat crisis of land degradation, tenure security, and contested governance that undermines both restoration efforts and local livelihoods. Two-thirds of Africa's productive land is degraded, further exacerbating threats to food security and forcing millions to migrate from their ancestral and inherited landscapes. GLF Africa 2025 centers on four themes: forest and land restoration, landscape restoration, land and tree use rights and livelihoods, natural capital and sustainable finance, and AI technology and data for intelligent landscapes. Today's session will zoom in on the second theme, which is land and tree use rights and livelihoods. We'll explore how clear, equitable tenure, especially for women, youth, Indigenous peoples, and other marginalized groups is not just a matter of justice, but the bedrock of successful, sustainable restoration and sustaining livelihoods. We'll dive into the intertwined challenges of land degradation and tenure insecurity and spotlight locally led solutions from the GLFX chapter networks, showing that securing land, bolstering governance, and fostering inclusive restoration models can both heal Africa's landscapes and power a nature economy that uplifts people and planets. From Madagascar to Sudan and Kenya, I'm honored to be joined by three distinguished restoration practitioners. Monica Yato, who is the founder of the Indigenous Women and Girls Initiatives and GLFX Baringo Chapter Network Coordinator. Monica leads ecological land restoration and champions women's land rights under UNDRIP. I also have Noro. I don't want to pronounce the surname because I'm sure that I'm not going to get it well. But she's the executive director of Fandraconado Maroon Serra in Madagascar and GLFX Farancarena. I think I got that one. Farancarena chapter coordinator with 15 years of experience in biodiversity conservation and community protected area management. Finally, we have Abraham Wani Alfred, who is the Executive Director of Survivor Aid and Chapter Coordinator of GLFX Juba, South Sudan, where he supports land-related justice and restoration in post-conflict settings. You are all most welcome. We're excited to have you with us today. I'm very excited. And now let's get into the topic of today, which will unpack these interconnected land-related challenges and explore rooted approaches applied by locally led organizations from the GLFX chapter networks to secure land tenure, strengthen governance, and create inclusive and resilient restoration routes across Africa. Now, our first question focuses on the realities on ground. Monica, in Baringo, how do tenure insecurity and land degradation intersect, and what unique pressures do indigenous agropastoralist communities face, specifically with land access and governance?
Excellent question, Salma. The landscape challenges in Baringo County are complex and deeply intertwined, particularly for indigenous agropastoralist communities. From the perspective of IWGI, we have seen a lot of issues affecting especially our work that we are doing now as we spearhead agroecology transitioning among the indigenous pastoralist community. Especially for women, our problem is lack of formal documentation and dual systems. You find a community where the whole of the village is under communal land ownership. And in this communal land ownership, nobody is allowed to even fence off a small space to cultivate land. So those are the challenges we are facing. And we have other communities who have already who have titles. They can now fence their land and also own land. So we have dynamics of those challenges. We have also open access. People are now moving from different villages to settle in everywhere because of insecurity that is happening now in Baringo. So those are the challenges we are facing. And then another big challenge that we are facing is the conversion of community land to private. Now the private, I would call them multinational corporation, they're coming and signing agreement with the county government. And we've seen big land being fenced off and now affecting our migratory routes, especially now that we are pastoralists and agro-pastoralists. So we have seen those challenges. Again, there's a big issue on land degradation. We have a lot of land that have been degraded. We have deep gullies. We have seen families lose land due to soil erosion. So those are the big challenges that is affecting land tenure and also farming communities in Baringo County. Thank you so much, Salma.
Thank you, Monica. I think something that I'm taking away from what you said is that women struggle to register or inherit lands. You remind us that again, tenure security is not gender neutral. It deepens inequalities and weakens community resilience. Thank you very much, Monica. Now, Noro, in Madagascar, how do contested forest rights play out in your landscapes, and which groups are most affected?
Merci, bonjour à tous. Bonjour Salma, je vous remercie. Je remercie GLF pour cette opportunité de pouvoir discuter à cette table ronde et merci pour cette question. À Madagascar, plus de 80% de la population vivent en milieu rural et dépendent de la terre, que ce soit pour l'agriculture ou l'élevage. Généralement, surtout dans notre paysage, l'agriculture itinérante et l'utilisation de la zone pastorale pour l'élevage des bovités sont les principales utilisations des terres, outre l'extension des villages à cause de l'agriculture itinérante. Les cultures de rente comme la vanille et le girofle, ainsi que les cultures du riz, sont les pratiques agricoles dominantes. Les deux premières entraînent l'exploitation des forêts et la seconde entraîne l'exploitation des zones marécageuses et les berges des rivières. L'élevage des bovidés est une tradition ancestrale et sert d'épargne pour les agriculteurs. Les bœufs jouent un rôle très important dans presque tous les rituels de des communautés de notre paysage et des zones délaissées après l'exploitation agricole sont utilisées en zone pastorale. La régulation malgache en matière forestière stipule que toutes les forêts naturelles sont la propriété de l'État, sauf celles qui sont titrées évidemment. Et cette régulation interdit en principe le défrichement des forêts naturelles. Cette régulation est en conflit avec les pratiques agropastorales que nous venons de mentionner plus tôt, restreignant ainsi les agriculteurs dans leur désir d'accaparer des terres pour leur activité et créant des conflits entre les communautés sur l'exploitation des terres et marginalisant les femmes et les jeunes. Ce qui nous amène à dire que les plus affectés par les restrictions d'utilisation des ressources naturelles, notamment les forêts et les terres, sont les agriculteurs qui, la plupart du temps, n'ont d'autres activités de subsistance que les activités agricoles et d'élevage à petite échelle qu'ils pratiquent. Je vous remercie, Salma.
Merci, Noro. Your insights illustrate what's happening in your landscape in Madagascar, and thank you for bringing those insights to this discussion today. Abraham, for displaced populations, how does lack of land access, hinder both livelihoods and restoration?
Thank you, Salma. Of course, lack of access can be cited as a major impediment to landscape restoration, livelihood, and environmental restoration. Lack of access to land may also create a cycle of vulnerability. Refugees, particularly for refugees, returnees, and the displaced population. If this population did not have access to land, then definitely they cannot grow their crops. They cannot practice a sustainable restoration. This will give them to solely rely on relief supply from the humanitarian organizations. It may also expose them to continue struggling to integrate to their community. They may also resort to activities like deforestation as one of the means of to move on with their livelihood. And they cannot even contribute to climate resilient activities, like they cannot practice tree planting, they cannot do agriculture and they cannot as well rear their animals so that as a mean of their livelihood. As such, there must be an introduction of fair policy that are inclusive to both refugees and returnees, so that they can also own land like any other person that is entitled to have land and to use that land for a purpose, for agricultural purpose, for developmental purpose, and for livelihood purpose. Thank you, Salma.
Thank you, Abraham. You emphasize that, but a critical lifeline. You emphasize that without access to soil for planting, water for livestock, or safe space for poultry, displaced populations face food insecurity. Now I'll move to our second segment for today because we're hearing how overlapping crises, climate, conflict, and marginalization creates vicious cycles. Let's explore solutions. Now, I'd like to get a better understanding of what proven approaches local organizations and communities use to secure land rights for women, indigenous peoples, and other marginalized groups, and how these approaches have supported more resilience restoration. Let's highlight actionable strategies. Monica, what community-led tenure models have worked in Baringo, especially for women and youth?
Thank you, Salma. And that is a very good question. Now that you know the challenges that women are facing, especially when they want to produce or provide food for their own households. In Kenya, we have the Community Land Act. And this Community Land Act, through other civil society organizations, we have organization advocating for land, community land registration. That is the Kenya Land Alliance. And this alliance has supported most communities to register their own land. We have other challenges, like now the people who are supposed to be in these community land boards. And majority of these community land boards are men, because when you get married into an household, of course, the leader of the family will give a priority to the sons of the community of that household, and that deprives of women and girls sometimes. Another opportunity that we have seen is the revitalization and adapting of inclusive customary governance. We have community conservancies, and in these community conservancies, majority of the owners of these community conservancies are family household. So again, that gives opportunity for some women to own and use and access that conservancy. Empowering women in land decision making. In most of our community forums, we give priority to women, especially now that we're working with the women. We call them self-help groups, and 80% of the members in self-help groups are women. So automatically, 80% of the people we meet and the people we interact with are women. So that gives them an opportunity to even negotiate with their spouses, give them an opportunity to make decisions on what to use on those lands. So another opportunity that we have seen to be very grateful is the link between land rights and food sovereignty. Agroecology as a catalyst of secure tenure for investment. We have had an opportunity to convince even men and women to work together and utilize the land through agroecology. And when we did a farm tour, an exchange visit to one of the, what do I call it, fully functional agroecology model farm in Mogotio, we encouraged women to come along with their spouses. And for me, that was a classic example of convincing and changing mindset of land use and also sustainable land use, especially in support of agroecology. Another opportunity we saw as the best was women as stewards. And our work is agroecology and Pharmacalia directly links to land access. We have found that women have secure access to even small plots. They transform them into highly productive and resilient food system. Our permaculture model farms in schools and community gardens encourages parents, school stakeholders to utilize land. For us, we see that when you change somebody's mindsets, they will be more convinced to utilize land. And another opportunity we have seen is providing food security. When you utilize your land, automatically you know that you will have to feed your community, you have to feed your household. When empower women economically, they have the rights to even convince their spouses to allow them access and use land. Also, youth engagement. We have seen the power of farming in youth. they have seen, oh, so I don't need to look for white collar jobs. I can still utilize my farm and make money out of it. So again, those are the opportunities that we have seen. It is working, and we would like to ask for more support to scale up. Thank you so much, Salma.
Thank you, Monica. It's inspiring to hear how by formally inviting women into community land meetings and facilitating peer-to-peer visits for food forests, and the Baringo chapter is shifting local norms. I believe that these visits demonstrate sustainable agroforestry in action, and it also builds women's confidence that where they move from just being beneficiaries to being active stewards. So Abraham, I would like to ask, how do you navigate land rights for refugees where formal systems are absent or hostile?
Thanks, Salma. There is need for combination of legal approaches and community-driven decisions. That may include policy approach because in some countries, land used to be owned by the community, and the community knows the customary system in place, and that they have their local laws that regulates how land can be accessed, land can be used, how land can be allocated to the beneficiaries. And these approaches involves community elders, involving chiefs, involving leaders, sometimes church leaders, and that can be approach in the situation that a person is in need of a land, particularly the refugees. They can be approached so that they can provide the land or in temporary form or a permanent form to the refugees to settle in. This will encourage community left hand allocation, of course, to ensure that there is fair distribution of land, because with the land, everyone is actually entitled to have a land, being a refugees, being a displaced person, being a minority group, they have the right to own a land. And I believe through this approach, it may work out some durable solutions so that everyone owns a land. I think some of the approaches may also involve community and stakeholders, partners, to advocate. And if we can't talk about the right to own a land, it may actually be very challenging to everyone to have a piece of land. And without having that piece of land, it may continue to create a syndrome or a cycle of high vulnerability. It may also affect our ecosystem because we are failing to own the land. Then definitely we may also fail to restore the degraded land, and this may endanger the ecosystem that we stays in. So through this customary system, which has been in practice for long, I believe it is the best, and it is currently at work here in South Sudan, whereby community allocates land and come up with the allocation plan. They designate or gives plot numbers, and then everyone now have access to those plot numbers. You go and process the legal documents at last. And customary system has a solution in case conflicts always arise. They have a mechanism that may involve the same stakeholders, which may include chiefs and chiefs and the elders, church leaders as well. And in all this process, of course, you may not do it without involving the government. Both the national and some national government must be made aware that there is land allocation going on in a particular situation, and it is already allocated, and that land is now allocated to everyone. Thank you, Salma.
Thank you, Abraham. You emphasize the multi-layered strategy where we combine advocacy, legal aid, church members as well, community mobilization, and you show how when we all work together, land rights is accessible to every single stakeholder and individual, even displaced communities. So thank you very much for that. Noro, your work so far has secured forest rights for associations. How did you engage marginalized groups, and how has this strengthened restoration and conservation?
À Madagascar, les communautés locales ont la possibilité de gérer les ressources naturelles de leur terroir à travers un contrat de transfert de gestion des ressources naturelles octroyé par le ministère de l'Environnement et du Développement durable. Ce contrat est établi pour des associations des communautés riveraines des forêts naturelles. Pour la forêt classée Farakarain où nous intervenons, nous avons deux de ces communautés de base pour gérer la forêt. Et notre ONG appuie et supporte ces deux COPA dans leur gestion de ces ressources naturelles de la forêt. Ainsi, toute personne riveraine de la forêt de plus de 18 ans a la possibilité d'être membre de ces communautés de base et participe en communauté à la gestion du terroir. Nous incitons ainsi les COPA à engager plus de femmes et de jeunes à adhérer dans ces communautés de base. Ainsi, actuellement, des femmes font de plus en plus partie du comité de gestion de ces communautés de base et les jeunes participent de plus en plus aux activités de surveillance et de contrôle des ressources de la forêt. Le transfert de gestion de la forêt aux COPA, aux communautés de base, exige l'établissement d'un cahier des charges et d'un plan d'aménagement et de gestion. Et ce plan d'aménagement et de gestion définit le zonage du terroir de la forêt, dans lequel des zones de conservation, évidemment, de restauration, d'écotourisme et de droits d'usage sont délimités en concertation avec les communautés. Nous venons justement de signer un nouveau contrat pour ces deux COPA et nous allons bientôt pouvoir délimiter physiquement sur le terrain ces différentes zones afin que les communautés riveraines de la forêt s'en rendent compte et suivent les règles de gestion fixées avec les communautés à travers le DIN. Le DIN est un règlement traditionnel accepté par les communautés pour la gestion des ressources naturelles et la sécurité publique et qui est homologué par le tribunal. Merci, Salma.
Thank you very, very much, Noro, for those wonderful insights. All right, now I'm going to invite the audience to reflect on this question in the chat. How can we scale these approaches while keeping them locally rooted? So I'm reading some of the comments here. So Maria from Cameroon says, we can form regional peer learning networks where villages share success stories and adapt practices to their own context, keeping local customs intact while benefiting from role models. Thank you, Monica. And we have Nadia from Kenya. She says, Abraham's emphasis on multi-stakeholder engagement shows how crucial it is to bring NGOs, local leaders, faith leaders, government actors together. Only then can the refugees truly feel entitled to land and rebuild their livelihoods. And then we have Fatima who says, hearing about women's land rights in Baringo resonated with me. It reminded me how tenure security transforms not just landscapes, but the very confidence of women and girls in rural communities. So thank you very, very much, everyone. These examples really shows that that securing rights is foundational to restoration, but how do we align customary and formal land governance systems? So our final question bridges on traditional land governance and existing policy frameworks and action. Monica, how can customary pastoralist systems be recognized within formal land administration?
Good question. And just to start is by telling us, do we really know what our rights mean? That is a big question that most of us don't know, that we have a right to land. We have a right to access the land. And that is It is in our constitution. It is in our, it's a human right, of course, and we have even a policy, the Matrimonial and Property Act. We have the Community Land Act. So we need to know that we need to know our rights to land use and our and rights, so that when we lose our spouses, or in the cases of land disinheritance and land grabbing, you have a copy of your title, because most communities, they don't even know that they need to apply for title. The procedures of applying for a title. What do you do when you buy a land? What do you do when you lose your spouse? Even our own women, they don't know that they need to have a marriage certificate, an indicator to show that you're legally married to that household or that community. So how do we disseminate this information? We need to do this, to do a lot of awareness creation. We need to educate our community to know that they need to own land. They need to have a title over this land, even if it's a community, or even if it is their private land. Another opportunity that I'm seeing that we need to do is integrating indigenous knowledge into land use planning, because of course we have a participatory land use planning. And national and county land use plans must be developed through genuinely participatory process, so that the community, the literate community, have their voices in this transition. Also, what do I call incentivizing sustainable practices. Policies should reward customary practices, promote environmental stewards, like the rotational grazing, biodiversity conservation. We should promote such initiatives in our landscapes, addressing historical land injustices and conflicts. As we speak now, we have people who are IDPs in their own community. They've been displaced maybe because of the land. There are people who have grabbed their land, even government displacing them. We have big projects that are coming to our communities, but do we have an informed decision? Can we sit with the governments? Can we sit with anyone who wants to invest in our community lands? So how do we address that? Also, land restitution and compensation. We have communities who have lost land to other land use practices, but can they be compensated? Do they have a chance to negotiate and even speak out about what they are facing? Also, conflict-sensitive land reforms. We have land reforms which are not sensitive to communities, affecting parties, transparent dispute resolution. How do we mediate? Because we have emerging conflicts over land. How do we mediate all this? Another thing that I've seen is that the government is really ignoring is the strengthening and empowering of community customary institutions. We have strong customary institutions in our community, but are they respected? Are they recognized? Co-management models, instead of replacing traditional governance, formal system, create pathways for co-management arrangements so that elders, other opinion leaders in the community, women can take part in decision making. But we lack that. Also, capacity building, investing in capacity building for customer leaders and community institutions and conflict resolution, land mapping, legal literacy related to the community land. We miss such things. We have also legal pluralism, where we need to embrace customary law, operates alongside statutory law with clear mechanism for resolving conflicts between two people. Like now we have boundary issues in Baringo. We are really in conflict every day because we don't know. We are looking at traditional, we have the new IBC boundary. We don't know. We are conflicting. We need to be educated on what to in case of this conflict. Even communities to be educated to know that this boundary is because a result of this and why this, so that we reduce conflicts in the society. Thank you so much, Salma.
Thank you very much, Monica. I think one thing that I'm taking from what you said is the fact that there needs to be sort of a knowledge exchange between the government and the local people as well, in order to best know where there's a boundary, so to reduce, because now I'm hearing that these also leads to conflict as well, so that cannot be overemphasized. Knowledge transfer and also capacity building for the local institutions as well, to know their land rights and to know exactly how best they can go about their land restoration activities. Thank you very much, Monica. And also, I would say I would make a tiny bit of a comment on the Matrimonial Act, where you said, so widowed women, the Matrimonial Act should be amended a bit, I think, so widowed women can even still inherit land rights, their land as well, when their spouses pass on. Thank you very much, Monica. Nora, what lessons from Madagascar's association models could inform national frameworks?
Salma, merci pour cette question. Dans notre paysage, nous avons constaté trois majeurs moteurs aidant la conservation de la forêt classée Farakaran. Tout d'abord, il y a le renforcement de capacité des communautés de base dans leur effort de gestion durable des ressources naturelles de la forêt à travers la formation de leur comité de gestion en matière de gestion des ressources naturelles, le renforcement de leur activité de surveillance et de contrôle de la forêt et de leur activité de restauration forestière. Ensuite, il y a l'information et l'éducation des communautés qui nous ont vraiment aidés à convaincre ces dernières à s'engager dans la gestion durable des forêts, lesquelles bénéficient leur activité et les futures générations. Enfin, l'incitation des femmes et des jeunes à s'engager davantage dans la gestion des ressources naturelles dans leur terroir peut vraiment faire une grande différence, car les femmes ont cet instinct naturel de savoir ce qui est important pour leur famille et les jeunes, une fois sensibilisés, prennent vraiment conscience de l'importance de préserver les ressources de la forêt pour leur futur. Merci, Salma.
Thank you very, very much, Noro. Now I'll move to Abraham. Abraham, how can humanitarian and restoration programs respect land rights while enhancing inclusion?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Salma. Humanitarian and restoration actors are actually aware that restoration program is a program that can address multiple concerns that are facing lives and livelihood of the population. And in the case of South Sudan or the humanitarian clusters, they have come up with a program called Sustainable Land Access Initiative, which focus on ensuring equitable land distribution so that everyone can at least own a land. And we in South Sudan, we have now a number of humanitarian actors, particularly with few who are now doing restoration and encouraging communities to embark on tree planting, both their to improve their both food security and the economic well-being. And this is now gaining momentum. And it is one of the approaches that we have actually seen very crucial. And with this, will reflect back that humanitarians are now keen that the restoration program is one of the best programs that can address concerns, including climate-related issues globally. And to this, for this to be effective, the Land Act is widely being advocated for by the housing and land property cluster, so that everybody can be aware that he or she is entitled to own land. In the case of South Sudan, because the laws granted that without discrimination, being a woman, being a disabled person, being a person who hails from minority group, you are entitled to own a land. And I think with this approach, it may take us to create a durable solution to the restoration program. In case someone wanted to own a land legally using the legal approaches, this may also contribute to creating a durable solution to a restoration program. In the situation that a person wanted to use the customary channel, can also approach the communities that are distributing the land, so that he or she owns the land for both the livelihood and restoration activities. There are so many strategies that are actually set by the initiative, which is initiative for land access, and some of these includes sustainable agricultural land. Of course, once you have the land, then definitely you may use the land to generate some vegetable that may later on help the family. Here in South Sudan, we were having a saying that when it rains and you don't have a farm at your backyard, then definitely you have wasted the rain, because you may not be benefiting from it completely. So humanitarian, together with restoration actors, they are working hand in hand to make sure that people keep on advocating for restoration program as one of the best practice that can address both our food insecurity level. It may also address our economic well-being. It may also address multiple issues, including climate-related concerns. And this is widely and being acknowledged by both the stakeholders in South Sudan and the humanitarian actors as well. Thank you, Salma.
Thank you, Abraham. I see that you're insisting as well that by insisting that displaced families have the right to secure land, you're reframing humanitarian aid from short-term aid to more of a long-term sort of restoration effort. Now we've seen that land rights, governance, restoration, and food security are inseparable. I don't want to go, but we would have to start rounding up the conversation. So we conclude with a reflection from each speaker to answer this question. Monica, please, what's your response?
My response in conclusion is that we need to really support land rights, especially now that we are talking about biodiversity conservation and food sovereignty. We can't grow on trees, we have to grow on land. So we need the land so that we can restore our biodiversity. So we need more support to create awareness, support governments and states to recognize the rights of pastoralists and indigenous pastoralist communities. And we need also to be protected because we have our traditional knowledge that is very key in our decision making as well. So we need recognition and also protection and support. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Monica. Noor, please, what's your response?
Oui, pour conclure, merci Salma. Là où il y a une vie, il y a toujours un espoir. Il est vrai que les communautés riveraines de la forêt classée Farafaraine ont la volonté de gérer et de préserver la forêt. Cependant, leur forte dépendance à la terre et à la forêt entrave cet élan. Aussi, nous sommes ouverts à toute aide et fort appui pouvant les aider à se distancer petit à petit de cette dépendance. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Noor. Abraham, please, your response.
My last saying is restoring our landscape is actually vital because it addresses multiple concerns, which may include environmental and human well-being, economy. It may also help in reversing the degraded land for further community use. It may also enhance our biodiversity, improve our resilience, and it may revive the ecosystem that has been endangered. And once the ecosystem is then revived, then definitely everyone will get involved in protecting the ecosystem by doing the best practices that can restore and protect the environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abraham, Nuru, and Monica. Today, we've heard about the deep challenges, land degradation, insecure tenure, and fractured governance. But through your stories, Monica, Nuru, and Abraham, you've reminded us that securing land rights and restoring ecosystems isn't just about policies or technical fixes. It's about centering the people who depend on these lands, upholding their legitimacy to shape their futures, and strengthening the bonds between communities and their environment. As we close, I leave you with this thought. The future of Africa's land lies in the hands of those who live on, cultivate, and protect them. When indigenous peoples, women, displaced communities, and local stewards have agency over their territories, we don't just restore degraded lands, we restore dignities, livelihoods, and hope. So I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. The conversation doesn't stop here. Let's keep working together to secure rights, restore ecosystems, and build a just and resilient Africa. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.